A soldier threw hot milk on her for fun, not knowing she was the new admiral. The mess hall buzzed with the usual morning chaos, boots scraping against the steel floor, trays clattering, voices overlapping like 100 conversations competing with the hum of the air vents. Steam from industrial coffee urns clouded the air, blending with the smell of powdered eggs and disinfectant. At the far end of the hall, a woman in a plain, unmarked uniform walked in quietly, unnoticed. No badges, no rank pins, just a simple naval blue jacket and calm, steady eyes. To the soldiers lounging around, she looked like a transfer, maybe a logistics officer or an aide. No one knew she was Admiral Raina Holt, the youngest and most decorated flag officer in Pacific Command, arriving incognito to inspect discipline and morale. At a corner table, a group of junior soldiers laughed over mugs of steaming milk, making bets on who'd dare pull the next newbie prank. One of them, a broad-shouldered corporal named Hensley, spotted the woman as she stood in line, quietly waiting her turn. She didn't move like the others, her posture was too straight, too deliberate, but her lack of insignia made her an easy target. "Hey, new girl," Hensley called out, smirking. "You look thirsty." The others chuckled as he dipped his hand into the metal dispenser, filled a cup with hot milk, and strolled over, swagger in every step. The woman didn't even look up as he approached. Her tray was steady, her gaze on the food counter. Without warning, Hensley tipped the cup forward. Scalding milk splashed across her sleeve and shoulder. A sharp hiss rose from the steam and the table behind him erupted in laughter. The hall went silent the moment she turned. Her eyes, calm, gray, and unreadable, locked onto his. She didn't flinch, didn't curse. Instead, she set her tray down, pulled a napkin, and wiped her arm methodically. "Temperature's about 75 degrees Celsius, she said evenly, enough to cause second-degree burns. "But lucky for you, Corporal, I've dealt with worse." Hensley froze. Corporal. He hadn't given her his name. A senior officer entered the hall just then, Commander Briggs, the mess supervisor. He stopped mid-step when he saw her face. Color drained from his cheeks. "Admiral Holt, ma'am," he barked, instantly snapping to attention. Every soldier in the hall shot up from their seats. Trays dropped, chairs scraped. The woman stood still, her expression unreadable. "So," she said quietly, looking at Hensley, "this is how your unit welcomes new personnel." Hensley's throat tightened. "Ma'am, I didn't know." "That's the problem, Corporal," she interrupted softly. "You didn't care to know." The silence was suffocating. Even the vents seemed to hum slower. Admiral Holt turned to Commander Briggs. "We'll discuss your training protocols after inspection. I expect a full report on this unit's conduct." She picked up her tray again, as if nothing had happened, and walked calmly toward the office's section. The soldiers watched her go, their laughter long gone, replaced by the realization that they'd just crossed the one person who could change every future they had. The silence in the mess hall lingered long after Admiral Raina Holt left. Hensley stood frozen, the cooling cup of milk trembling in his hand, his pulse hammering in his ears. Around him, the soldiers exchanged uneasy glances, unsure whether to move or stay still. The laughter that had once filled the hall now felt like evidence, something guilty and shameful hanging in the air. Commander Briggs' voice broke the tension. "Corporal Hensley, office, now." Hensley obeyed without a word, following Briggs through the narrow corridor lined with gray lockers and peeling motivational posters. Inside the commander's office, the admiral was already there, waiting. Her jacket had been removed, revealing the crisp uniform beneath, complete with her insignia glinting under the fluorescent lights. She was reviewing a data tablet, her expression calm, composed, and unreadable. "Sit," she said without looking up. Hensley sat. His throat was dry, words stuck somewhere between apology and fear. Admiral Holt finally lifted her gaze. "You've served here for 3 years, correct?" "Yes, ma'am," he replied quickly. "Commendations for marksmanship," she continued, scrolling. "2 demerits for insubordination and 1 reprimand for harassment during basic. I assume you've learned since then." He swallowed hard. "Yes, ma'am, I thought I had." Her tone was measured, but sharp as steel. "What you thought was fun, today could have burned skin and destroyed morale. You humiliated a fellow soldier in public, someone you assumed had no authority. That tells me more about your character than your record ever could." Briggs stood rigid beside her, sweat glistening on his temple. "Ma'am, permission to." "Denied," she said curtly. "You'll have your turn." Turning back to Hensley, she continued, "In my fleet, respect is non-negotiable. You treat every rank, every uniform, every person with dignity, because someday, the person you laugh at might be the one who decides whether your ship sails or sinks. Her words cut deep. Hensley lowered his head. Ma'am, I take full responsibility. You will, she said quietly. Effective immediately, you're relieved of mess duties and reassigned to disciplinary maintenance under Chief Navarro. You'll clean every corridor of this base until you understand what humility feels like. He nodded, shame flooding through him. Admiral Holt stood, straightened her jacket, and walked toward the door. Before leaving, she paused. You have potential, Corporal. Don't waste it on arrogance. Remember this, rank can change overnight. Respect is earned forever. When she exited, the room felt smaller, heavier. Commander Briggs finally exhaled, turning to Hensley with a weary look. You have no idea how lucky you are, he muttered. She could have ended your career. Outside, the mess hall was silent as she passed. Every soldier stood at attention, eyes forward. She didn't demand it, they just did. Word had spread. The woman who'd walked in looking like a quiet recruit had just taught the entire unit a lesson they'd never forget. And as Admiral Holt stepped into the sunlight, she murmured under her breath, discipline begins where arrogance ends.